Let me tell you one thing we would never do in the garden. We would never plant a seed and then dig it up every day to see if it was growing. We'd plant the seed, we would do what we could, we would plant it in the right soil, we would water it, but then we would step back and trust the process. We would trust that either the seed would come up or at least one of the seeds would come up because we have put in the work of planting multiples. Anyway, you would trust the process. I'm wondering where in your life maybe you're not trusting the process. Where are you starting to put in action and then obsessively checking the results? Maybe if you're like me, it's a new diet you started and you start eating better and then you start lifting your shirt up in the mirror, posing and being like, oh, are there any abs forming? Am I losing any weight? And if you have done that, you know how disheartening it is. It does not help. Obsessively checking results actually seems to kill momentum and make us less likely to get those results, at least in my experience. Also, hi, I am A. Rose. I am a Vanderbilt grad turned stay-at-home mama living on a rural farm. And I tell you those two labels because I think they perfectly explain my evolution. I started out as someone who was obsessed with external metrics. I wanted to do well in school. I wanted to go to a good college and get a good job. And now I've become someone who is focused much more on internal growth, slow living, taking care of things that don't give you immediate results, growing my family, growing plants, a much more slower life, which can sometimes be a challenge because I still have that part of me in there that wants external results that validate what I'm doing, but I'm having to learn to be okay with just the process. Speaking of the process, today is day 3 of 10 of my 10-day challenge to myself to get up with the sunrise, get out into my garden, work for 30 minutes to an hour, and then record a video. It's raining a tiny bit this morning, misting, which makes the weather beautiful, and it actually has stopped, which is good for my camera gear. I was worried whether or not I would be able to finish this video. Anyway, today what I worked on was pulling up hogweed. I don't know if that's the official term for it. It is a plant that has these little thorns on it. I love to walk barefoot in my garden, and so if I don't pull up all this hogweed, it is not fun to walk barefoot because I'm poking my toes all the time. I also deadheaded my lavender with the hope that maybe it'll bloom a little bit more. Deadheaded some echinacea, which deadhead just means that the flower is past its prime. It's starting to dry up and produce seeds. A lot of flowers, if you deadhead it, they'll send up new blooms because they want to produce seeds. A lot of my tasks today revolved around that feeling of, oh, I should have done this sooner. Oh, I should have pulled up this ragweed before it started to develop seed heads. I hope it hasn't gone to seed. Oh, I should have cut off this lavender head before it maybe went to seed because I don't know if I might be too late where it won't produce more. So there was a lot of feeling like I should have done better. But I stopped myself and reminded myself to be proud of the work I'm putting in now, because how disheartening is it to do something and then just criticize yourself for it. Anyway, so that's my garden update. And while I was in the garden this morning, I thought a lot about this idea of trusting the process. So yesterday I had a really good lesson in trusting the process because I realized something I had been doing with YouTube was actually hurting. One thing I'm struggling with, honestly, with YouTube is not checking analytics, not checking the results. So the second video I posted, I was really good the first video. The second video I posted, it was a short video, got 20,000 views. And that was fun, checking the analytics and being like, oh my goodness, it's gotten another 1,000 views. I've gotten another 5 subscribers. And that got me into a negative cycle of checking the results way too much, which then when they inevitably slowed back down, it made me question a lot. It made me kind of be too obsessive about trying to figure out what to do to get more views, especially on those videos that didn't seem to be getting hardly any traction. So I decided to log into my other YouTube accounts. I have other Gmail accounts from different phases of life, like college or before I got married and I had a different maiden name. I have like, and for our business, we have a land clearing company, and I have a couple Gmails, or a Gmail for that. Anyway, I logged into these YouTubes or that I'd already created, since I had posted some videos like for our land clearing company, or for when I worked in a car as a car salesman. I have an old YouTube channel that has videos of me exploring cars. Anyway, I logged into those channels and started watching my videos, being like, okay, maybe I'll tell YouTube, look, people watch these. Then I realized yesterday that actually that was a terrible idea, because I was confusing the YouTube algorithm, because now they're like, okay, so people who sell cars and are obsessed with productivity, they like her videos? Which no, because I'm all about slow living in nature and internal growth. None of that would probably align with most people who watch videos about cars. I mean, maybe some, but not a lot. I'm a lot more of probably the people who are going to enjoy this videos are mamas, maybe a stay-at-home mom, maybe you're starting to live more in nature, you want a slower life. You're probably going to connect more. Somebody who wants to learn about the inside of cars, you know, especially if you use a stereotype that that would be a man, he might not relate to my videos. Anyway, the lack of trust, the obsession with the analytics made me do something that actually ended up hurting my account, because the video, I noticed after I did that, my views tanked even lower. Like they were terrible. And I should have trusted the process. I had to pause and cover up my camera because it's raining again. But I wanted to tell you that trusting the process doesn't mean you just sit back and do nothing. There are actions you can take. Just like you water the seed, there's smart actions you can take for your goals. And so that's where wisdom comes in, and learning about what you're doing comes in. So for me, I needed to learn that I was actually messing up the YouTube algorithm, and that wasn't a meaningful action to take. It wasn't going to help me. It just like you might need to learn in your garden what kind of fertilizer or what kind of soil your seed likes. So you're not dumping a bunch of chicken manure on top of the seed where it's going to come up and burn. You have to learn a little bit about the process and have wisdom to know the right actions. So trusting the process doesn't mean you just sit back and do nothing. It means you do what you can, you focus on what you can control, and then you let go of the rest. And you remember that the results come when they come, and that's not your responsibility to force the results. All you can do is what you can control. So for me with YouTube, I can control posting videos. I can control trying to make those videos the best quality that I can for the stage I'm in and for what I know. Those are things I can control, but I can't control, you know, who sees it completely. You know, I can improve titles and thumbnails and hashtags and do all the things that when you learn about YouTube posting, you learn about, but I don't need to refresh analytics, because that can just cause confusion, because it can make me doubt the process I'm taking instead of allowing it to grow underground. Even if I can't see the growth, I can trust the process that it will happen. So I wonder where in your life you might not be trusting the process, where you might be doing things that could even hurt the process because you're trying to control things that are out of your control.